All right.
And yes, we are live. I'm here with my new friend Alan. How you doing, Alan?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming on. I met you in the comments section on Kent Hovind's interview. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, but I want to get to know you. What's your faith journey like? Talk us through from childhood all the way to today. What are the sort of the highlights of your journey philosophically and in terms of faith? Talk a little bit about the family, how were you raised, all those sorts of things, to the extent that you're comfortable, and just touching on the highlights that you want to, okay?
All right. Well, I'm the youngest of nine of a mainly it was overall Catholic family.
Ah,
There's been one or two that have, I guess, kind of left the church completely, and then sort of have a foot in the door, and that's it. And so I was brought up though the same as the others. I went to private Catholic school. Um, the first one was St. Joseph. It's in the small town of Scott City, Missouri. And
ah,
then another smaller town, Kelso, Missouri, St. Augustine.
ah.
I started there third grade year, and then pretty much, and then we all went to Catholic high school as well, Notre Dame Regional High School, which is in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, 100 miles south of St. Louis. So it's a small city. So when it comes to the journey, I think going to those schools helped quite a bit. And then also my parents always making sure that we went to mass each Sunday, or if not a Sunday, the Saturday evening, of what the church permits for Saturday evening. And my mom would always kind of encourage certain saints, like Saint Anthony, for helping to find a lost item, and then Saint Christopher for a safe trip and safe journey, even if that was just a walk. So that was always kind of brought up, and I've never had any particular question of the faith, and that's a gift. I believe that was a gift to have that, because I've never had the thought of ever want to leaving the church, even if I was a prodigal son, so to speak. I never had the slightest doubt of the faith. And I respected the other faiths and journeys, but I never had the slightest thought of, like I said, of leaving the Catholic Church. Um, and so I was pretty well going through the steps at age 7, and had my first communion and confession. And I was doing pretty good. It seemed, as a Christian overall, trying to be kind and this and that, even dealing with bullies best I could, turning the other cheek. I always remember learning about that. And so I was doing good. And then right around probably 5th grade year, I started having issues, I'll say, with sin and kind of falling and stumbling. But I'd always try and make sure to go to confession. And it doing that definitely helped. I should have, if I would have known more about the faith at the time, I would have went to confession and then tried to work hard to not do those sins. But unfortunately, at that time, being younger, I would go to confession. I'm like, okay, I'm good, and then get right back at it, like a cycle. So, and if you need to ask any questions, you can. But
I'll let you finish the journey up until today.
okay, all the way to today. All right, and then in high school, I had so that kept kind of on and off with the same kind of sins, on and off, or sometimes those sins that I didn't really want to happen. Like one time, and maybe it'd be more considered venial. Um, and my a sibling of mine, I'll keep anonymous, a sibling and their significant other took me to a church that was not Catholic, and it was kind of cool a little bit at first, like, oh, it's different. But at the same time, deep down, I was like, this is wrong, and this is not. There's something not present here. No, there was nothing against that church. It felt like a theater. No offense to that church, and it was a big screen. I'm like, okay, and the music's different. I'm like, okay, But at the same time, I was like, this isn't right. And I didn't tell my parents about it because I felt bad to upset either my parents, especially my mother. And so that was, obviously stuff like that. I don't want to really count too much, but I, still needed to confess them, of course, even if they were just venial. And then, anyways, going back to high school, Notre Dame was a good high school. There's some stuff that they could probably change. I think the dress code, but other than that, great high school. You get theology all 4 years, and they actually respect other religions, including atheism, very well at this high school, the local high school there. And so that was pretty neat to kind of like, okay, so, and the church taught about, or the high school taught about like Vatican II a little bit, and then about how, there is a chance outside of the faith. And that was kind of heartwarming for me, for sure, to learn that and understand that better. So, those that are ignorant outside of the church can still make it. But anyways, I don't want to get ahead of myself on that. So about a year and a half, I was doing pretty good as a Christian, not doing too bad with sin. And then I kind of fell back into it around age 17, 18-ish. And then I went straight into the workforce. And from that point to around the age 22, I was kind of I was going to church, but I was kind of Catholic, but I wasn't like a practicing. I was just kind of like, okay, this is my church. And I would make sure I kind of go every Sunday for my mom's sake and for my own soul's sake. I always wanted to go to heaven. And so around the age 20, I think around 20-ish, 19 and a half, 20, my cousin died, Dominic. Yeah. And I'm actually wearing his shirt. Do it for Dom. Yep. So, and that hit me pretty hard. And I kind of fell, I was already kind of in a stumble, and I fell even deeper into like a major prodigal son type life. And I kind of was upset with him passing, and I asked Lord why and whatnot. But I never got angry towards God, just upset with my cousin dying. And I asked God why. Looking back, it was a good thing. Oh wait, I asked God why, and why not myself instead of someone like Dominic, who was a good man. He was 17, but he was, close to manhood. And looking back, it was a good thing that I didn't ever die at that time, because I may have been damned. I don't know if I would have been, hopefully purgatory, but I may have been. So really the answer was kind of obvious if I would have really thought at the time. So anyways, he died. And so I was in kind of a prodigal era. I never lost faith. I didn't ever stumble of believing in God. I never stumbled with wanting to commit suicide or any of that stuff. I kept strong in faith, and eventually I finally got over the mourning of him dying around maybe a year and a half, 2 years after. So it was a long time. For some reason, I know the reason, but he was close, and I didn't think it'd take that long, but I finally got over him, dying, and I accepted it better. And then I started listening to Catholic radio. It's 94.3 in the Cape Toronto area, if you're ever in this area. And that kind of sparked my faith a little bit and understanding it. And I started getting back into it deeper around age 22, 23-ish. And then I met my current wife. Yeah. And her and I differ still to this day. She would be Protestant, Assembly of God. Mm-hmm. I'll say Assembly of God, but Protestant, is what Catholics would probably say. And her and I kind of bumped heads, and even recently, sometimes, which I've gotten better now, but sometimes I kind of Bible thump her with the Catholic faith or a Bible. But anyways, so I was practicing more, but I still wasn't doing things properly to the church's standard. And we married outside of the church, which we're working on right now to get validated by the church. And anyways, I kept listening to the Catholic radio and then watching some YouTube videos like Dr. Taylor Marshall and whatnot. And I kind of started looking deeper into the faith and researching and learning more about it. And I got really into it. I was like, man, any of my siblings or any other family that have left the faith, they have no idea what they left. And I'm like, now even more so. Back then I wasn't going to ever leave. Right now, there's nothing that could ever get me to leave already, even more so today. Like there's nothing anyone could ever try and, even if the corruption with the church the church has had over the years, it's not going to keep me from leaving. And so I got much deeper in the faith. I'm trying to think about where I was at in my story. So I got deeper in the faith. Oh, and there was a short period during this time when I got deep in the faith like that I tried to see about bringing unity amongst Christians that were not Catholic yet.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was sort of close to talking to the head honcho, so to speak, of Assembly of God in Springfield, Missouri. Yeah.
Wow.
That's where the headquarters are. Yeah. And am I able to show you the papers I typed out?
Sure.
And I typed out a number of pages about the differences between Assembly of God and the Catholic Church, and with the church's permission of how to do it, how if those that want to join from the Assembly of God into the church, how it can happen. Like I went through everything. I made sure to have an explanation about why the church believes. I even have a section of common ground. It's probably hard to read, but it says common ground. And then possible disagreements and complete disagreements. Like I had it ready. And I tried to get a hold of him, and it just wouldn't happen. Either he was too busy, and pretty much I kind of gave up on it. I kept it all typed out in case one day I try again. But I kind of gave up on him. I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I should just pray. Maybe this wouldn't work anyways. Maybe it might lead him further away to want to even consider such a thing. So, and I even tried to make a name for it.
Cool.
Becoming one. Yeah. So once that failed and I couldn't get it to happen, I was like, well, I'll just focus on family and my wife and whatnot, friends and family. And then all the way, this is kind of recent that I kind of realized better that trying to convert with information or truth or facts or even church history or the church teachings or even bringing the Bible itself, it almost hardens the heart. And I've noticed, and I'll keep the people anonymous, but I noticed that some of the family or friends, their hearts did harden. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to pray for them instead. So anyways, back to my journey. Don't mean to get skipping ahead.
That's good stuff.
So, yeah. So we moved back to Cape because my mother has Parkinson's, so I wanted to be close to her. Yep. And my dad had a stroke around the same time that she ended up being diagnosed, maybe a little bit before. So I wanted to be closer to them. They were getting older. They're in their 70s. So we moved back to here, and I continue to stay deep into the faith, and I've become kind of, I don't like to say it too much. I wanted to say Catholic really, but to technically speak, I'd be considered, I guess, a traditional Catholic, which really is just Catholic. But I guess what that means more so is like very, very into and dedicated to the traditional Latin Mass. That's all in Latin. And because one day I watched, it was Fulton Sheen. I think Venerable Fulton Sheen. And he has this little video online. It's a really beautiful video. It's in black and white, and it's of the Latin Mass at the time in like the 1940s. And he explains what's happening. And it was the most beautiful, not just Mass, but beautiful video and Mass I've seen, like to this day now also. Nothing against the podcast I watched of yours or anything else I've watched. It's nothing against all of that.
Don't be silly. Don't be silly.
So, and that just kind of like hit me in a sense. Like, I really wish there's a Latin Mass nearby. I mean, every Mass is Latin Mass of the Latin,
Right.
not branch, but Latin.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. But I meant like I guess the Council of Trent one that was they kind of made, I don't know if they updated it or if they kind of set it more in stone at the time, the Council of Trent. So I'm really like that's the one I want to go to still. I haven't went to one yet today. I've seen two or three of them. That 1940s one was definitely the most beautiful because it had all this. Sorry, I have a notification on my phone. It had all this like this giant choir, and like it just was so like I could watch it over and over if I wasn't so tired at the time. Like I finished it. I was like, man, if I wasn't so tired, I'd want to watch it again. I actually did watch it, I think, a second time. Like I couldn't get enough of it. So I became kind of that type of Catholic, so to speak, of being really like big time into that. And so a side note is I have a pretty good memory. And I say memory for me, I think if it's not memory, it's probably more so the Holy Spirit. I'd rather give credit to the Holy Spirit. I do have good memory though from my parents. They both have really good memories. So, you know, the Holy Spirit blessed me to keep it strong of what I got from my parents. And so all these videos I've watched over the years, I can remember quite a bit of it. And like, so little things like what God the Father said to St. Catherine of Siena. When she spoke, she didn't speak face to face, but she got to speak to God the Father back in the I think 12th or 13th century. I can't remember which century, but I think the 1200s, so 13th century. And like one of the things that the Father said to St. Catherine of Siena was to respect the priest, even the corrupt priest, as if Jesus himself was right there. So little stuff like that, I remember, I just kind of kept fresh in my mind, and that has also helped with my faith and my faith journey. And about like, another thing that the Father said to her was that, and wait, I may have gotten this mixed up with what Jesus said to Saint Faustina, but I think Jesus may have confirmed it with her, so they may have both said it, you know. But that a lot of those in purgatory are there more so for the fact that they didn't believe in the mercy of God than all of their life sins together.
Mm-hmm.
That disbelief in God's mercy was more offensive to God the Father and Jesus, saying it to St. Faustina, was more offensive than their entire life's sins, all of their sins together. I was like, wow. So believing in the mercy of God is extremely important for us. So I all that stuff I try to, I keep it in the back of my head, or I guess the front of the head is more important stuff. Maybe I keep it remembered. Someone told me that just the other day about the front of the head for more important stuff. I'm like, yeah, so that's more in the front of the head. So all that stuff and everything I've learned, a lot of that stuff that I've learned from the saints or the visions, like from the Blessed Virgin of Our Lady of Fatima. And then also the Our Lady of Garabandal,
Wow.
Which I don't know if you may have already heard about that.
Yeah, that's not approved, but it's
so it hasn't been approved, but it hasn't been disapproved.
Yeah.
You may have heard that. Okay, yeah, okay. So I think there has been one thing, the synod on synodality was mentioned at Garabandal.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and you can assume that I'm wrong and research yourself to look more into it. But the word synod back then was not really used too often. And young little girls shouldn't have known of such a word, such a specific word, if they even had it learned by that point.
Yeah, what was her name?
Oh, man, I believe Conchita, but I think it was Conchita.
Beautiful, beautiful woman, eh?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I believe she's the one of few that are still alive, and like she's apparently still really holy. since
Good.
that time. Like she's stayed close to the Blessed Virgin and Jesus himself, you know, visiting the Eucharist. And she apparently, her and her family, I kind of learned this like a couple months ago. They all have a little raffle that or papers you pick out of a hat or something, and you pray wherever you get, you pray a rosary for that person.
Oh.
Their whole family does that at Christmas time.
Nice.
Yeah. So she does all kinds of kind of, you know, stuff like that. But anyways, I think it was Conchita, and I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was her that mentioned that, at least in a few videos. And definitely from what Blessed Virgin said to her about the synod. And that there was some, I don't want to say hypocrisy, but there was some stuff from the synod that was not the best, I guess I'll say. I try and say this out of respect for the hierarchy, because we need to pray for them. Pray for Pope Francis, whether someone believes that he's the Pope or not. I know that's kind of debate from some traditional Catholics. I'm not part of that debate type. I believe he's the Pope. And even if he wasn't, you know, there was times that there were saints that went to who they thought was the Pope that was not the Pope. I'm sure you heard of that. So we still need to respect him and the bishops, cardinals, and priests and deacons, all of the hierarchy and magisterium, you know, as if Jesus himself is there. You know, even if they're messing up, let's say, or a little, I don't want to say corrupted, but they're doing things that are kind of different than what we should be doing as Catholics. You know, like, you know, so the synod that's supposed to happen is kind of interesting. But, oh, sorry, I went off track of so anyway, up to today, I'm kind of still at the same spot of kind of, you know, a little bit traditionalist type, but I'm more so in the middle of like, because I want the Catholic Church to, and all of us in the faith to kind of get more together on this. Like, we don't need to, if you go to Novus Ordo Mass or the what is it, the extraordinary, I'll just say the older form. If you go to either one, it's still the Mass, and Jesus truly becomes present in both of them. So people don't need to feel bad if they go to one or the other. And I will say one thing that I do kind of promote a little bit when it comes to, like, and it's kind of connected to my faith journey, is to try our best to, not try our best, but like consider receiving the Lord on the tongue kneeling. The church permits on the hand, but if we can do that on the hand with reverence, that'd be better. Or at least standing up on the tongue. So I definitely, that's one thing from the older Mass where everyone knelt and received it on the tongue. Is kind of neat. Oh, did it mess up? Okay.
It just blipped for a second.
Let me get my phone to charge. That was the problem. I thought I had it on it showed the 20% thing. And
oh,
I had
danger. So how old are you today, if you don't mind me asking?
29, I'm about ready to turn 30.
Oh.
I'm pretty much 30.
Your battery's getting low on charge there. You're getting up to the age 30 now. Okay.
My phone's telling me how I'm doing as a human.
Yeah.
20% strength.
No, you're doing well. You're doing very well. I like your story, and you've got a very nice demeanor where you're very careful to be charitable. I like that. And what's your ethnic background? You look like you're Irish or something.
Oh yeah, I was out in the field today, or well, not the field, but out in the yard. So I probably do look like that with my face right now, with the kind of reddish face.
Well, just your coloring. You look like you're from Ireland. Do you know your roots?
Buddy. Do what?
Do you know your roots, your family heritage?
Yes, sir. And that would be mainly German.
Okay.
Majority. My grandma Judd side, she has some Seminole, Native American Seminole.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I think she's either half or 1/4. I think she's half though, because she came from Florida.
Oh yeah. Wow. Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and there's a
Yeah.
little bit of English, I think, and a little bit of English and French. I think there's more French than English, though.
Yeah, well,
I think,
The French, the English, and the German, they're all mixing up together. It's hard to sort out. They were all mixing together in that region.
yeah, definitely.
But we have a Native American saint here, the first Native American saint in North America, Saint Kateri Tekakwitha. I always say her name wrong. Forgive me, I say her name wrong all the time. But
Oh, right, I've heard that name before.
yeah, she's a Mohawk saint, and she's right nearby me. Her tomb, like I can drive to her tomb.
Oh,
It's
cool.
right close by. Yeah, and we've got another saint here, Saint Andre Bessette, who built a big oratory to Saint Joseph. I don't know if you've heard about Brother Andre, but he healed a lot of people, like hundreds of people from there. We have hundreds of crutches on display in this huge oratory that he built to Saint Joseph.
Okay.
If you ever come
Wow.
to Montreal, you can't miss it. You got to definitely check it out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
For sure.
That'd be cool to Montreal.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're one of 9 kids, you said?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And would you say it's safe to say that you're the one that's most on fire for Christ and his church, like in terms of the Catholic Church, anyway?
Yeah, and I want to say that out of respect for my sibling. I would be most on fire, but I do have struggles. I don't want to say
Saint.
I have less sins, or yeah, I'm a saint, because others will definitely probably have a lot of strong points, and they may
Yeah.
have some other weak points. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would definitely be. You're right though. When it comes to the Catholic faith, I definitely I'm gonna want to post more. We have a little group chat. Almost there's 2 of them. There's one. Yeah, one of my brothers doesn't get the group chats very well, but we have at least 2. We have one where it's all 9 of us. The other one is 8, except for my brother, who he has to delete the messages. He's got a little bit older phone. Yeah. So
Wow, so you're all very close then.
pretty close. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's pretty
There's
cool.
obviously a big family. There's gonna be some stumblings, but we're all pretty well close. But most of the stuff I try and share is usually related to faith. Sometimes I used to be a little bit political more, but I stay away from it more now.
Good. Glad to hear.
Unless it can encourage some good for a sibling or something, that'd be different, But other than that, majority of my stuff that I try and share when I'm just sharing a random message, would say it would be encouraging the faith, even those that are outside of the church right now.
Did I see a religious icon on your wall? Is that possible that I saw? I'm not sure, somewhere. No?
No,
No? Okay.
but from a distance it might. I'm trying to think if you.
Yeah, beside your mirror over there. What is that? What is that thing? That image
Nightmare
there?
Before Christmas.
What is it?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Ah, okay. I
Yeah.
thought it looked like I see like a round halo kind of thing. I don't know what it.
Oh yeah, so that's like the background of moon type shape,
Ah, okay.
and then within the moon is Oogie Boogie from the movie. I think
That's a cool movie. Yeah, that's a cool movie.
it is.
That's a cool movie. So I'm
But,
really interested. I'm really interested in your story and this marriage, this irregular marriage that you're in. I'm in an irregular marriage too. I don't know if you know that, but it's challenging because she's not only is she not Catholic, but she's very anti-Catholic, like hateful and violent towards the church. So it's a challenge, to put it mildly, but we love each other and stuff, but it's a major point of contention, and I just try not to impose it on her, and she knows I'm into it, but she thinks I'm crazy. And she thought it was just she thought at the time in 2009 when I converted, she thought, okay, he's just being annoying, it's just a passing fad. Okay, I've tried fighting him, that didn't work. I'll just let him do his thing and he'll get over it. But now she's realizing I'm not getting over it. I'm getting into it more and more, So it's a challenge, but I want to address this. It's very sensitive, but I want you to talk to me about, because you and I don't have any choice but to relinquish control and put it in God's hands, and specifically into the mercy of God. And so I read the Diary of Saint Faustina, and I really loved it. And I do a little mini prayer at 3 o'clock, to the Divine Mercy thing, Just
That's
a
good.
tiny,
You're ahead of me.
small prayer, just a small prayer. It's quick and easy.
Good.
And, it's very important to me. So I want, your disposition is very good in terms of charity and being kind and these sorts of things. So I'm sure you handle it well, but in your heart of hearts, you can't help but worry because there's absolutely no possibility of salvation outside of the Catholic Church because Christ didn't build 40,000 churches. He built one church, and we all have to get into the ark. Like I always use the example of Noah's Ark, right? Have you seen
Yep.
that?
Yeah, I see that. That's pretty
That's
cool.
that's a beautiful image of the church.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then I've read the documents of Vatican II, and I know how generous God is in terms of bringing people into the church. It might be at their last breath. It might be, God only knows. We have to trust in Him.
Yep.
But there's a plan. There is a plan in place to bring everyone in. So I'm just wondering, in your heart of hearts, because you love your wife, presumably, and everyone else, how do you deal with that day to day, the tension that exists when there are people out there that you care about that are atheists and Hindus,
Yeah.
Muslims, Protestants, and then you've got your wife at home. How do you deal with that internally?
So for me, it goes back to what you were saying about the mercy of God. I try. I don't try. I trust in the mercy of God, and I also try and pray. I say, Lord, please bring mercy and bring her the chance of conversion at the time of her passing. And I will say, and she said it, and she don't care if I say this. She said she'll never join the Catholic Church ever. She confirmed that. I said, and I try and mention to her, I'm like, the Catholic Church consists of the church militant on earth, the triumphant in heaven, and the suffering in purgatory. Yeah. And I said, so to say you'll never join means you'll never join any one of those three. So we got to be careful saying that. Why don't we say I'll never join the current church on earth at the moment? And I try and encourage that, but that doesn't.
Yeah, well, you can tell her. You can tell her. Look, we all hate the corruption and lies that certain members of the hierarchy have engaged in. We all hate that. God hates that more than we do. But we don't worship fallible human beings. We worship the one true God, right? And Christ is God, and Christ and His church, His one church, Christ and His church are one. So it's, we're not in danger. We're not confused. We in the Catholic Church are not confused about the church and Christ. It's one. It's one. And like you said, church militant, it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess because why? Because original sin, actual sin, yours and mine. And you can point out to her, not that you would use this technique, but you could point out to her, or maybe her conscience will tell her that she also is a sinner, right? She's contributing to the corruption of the Catholic Church. She is contributing to the corruption of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Whether she likes it or not. You may as well admit it. You may as well just admit it and say, hey, look, we're all in the same boat. And to go back to Noah's Ark, it's like, let's get in the boat. I don't care if your farts stink or if your accent is strong or you don't speak perfect English or if your IQ is a bit lower or whatever. Like whatever your problems are, don't worry about it. We got to get into the safety of the ark so that we can go and be with our Maker. That's it. That's the bottom line. So I think a lot of the division in the church has to do with pride, and my pride is first and foremost. It's the ugliest pride there is. So I'm not pointing fingers, but that's what it is. That's what it is. We have to humble ourselves to get into into Noah's Ark, because the people in Noah's day, they made fun of Noah. They thought he was retarded. They thought he was crazy. Because there wasn't a lot of rain, there wasn't a lot of water around him. There was a couple of rivers, but he's building this big, ugly boat that's black and it's square and it's too big and it's
massive.
It doesn't make any sense, right? So it is a little bit crazy. It is a little bit foolish to follow Christ and His church. I mean, if it made sense to the world, then it would be a worldly, satanic thing, right? Like everything that Satan's telling us about pleasure, that makes sense. Like, you like pleasure? Okay, have pleasure. You like food? Okay, have food. You like sex? Okay, have sex. That's the satanic religion. It all makes sense.
Yep.
Food is good, sex is good, everything's good, and Satan's telling us it's all good, it's all for you, take it, take. And then he laughs at us when we realize that we put the creature above the creator and that we're we're his, you know. So it's
Yep.
a real challenge
Tries to make
psychologically and
you feel
spiritually.
bad. Yeah. So we my family, we kind of, if I ever talk over an accent, I don't mean to. We
No,
kind of
no,
do it
no,
in my
no, no,
family.
no, no.
I'm not gonna say it's German thing or anything, but we kind of just do it in my family in general. We just kind
Big
of,
family. It's a big family. You know, you could talk over me all you want. It's not a problem. Not a
yeah.
problem.
And I'm the youngest, so you would think that I shouldn't be doing it as much, but I do the same as any
Yeah.
other sibling. Some siblings don't do it really that bad, actually, but I kind of learned from them. So those that do it, we kind of just talk over each
I do
other.
it. I do it all the time. I want to give a shout out to my friend Daniel Drazinovich. He's in the live chat here. He says, "Good evening." He says, "You're a nice young man," which is true. Understatement.
Thank you.
uh, yeah, he says, like you said, my friend Daniel says that words won't do it, but love will make a change. And that's what the saints did to convert people, right? Like they had the truth, they had the knowledge, they had the, you know, they knew the Bible, they knew,
Yeah.
they brought everything, but the most important thing that they brought was not their words so much as their actions, and those actions were grounded in love of Christ and his church. So it's all about, yeah, it's all about love for sure.
For sure. And prayer. And you probably already know about this. What's really annoying for my situation is that there's certain prayers, and I'm not gonna make it. I don't want to sound superstitious, but there's certain prayers that are they're considered a conversion prayer. A divine mercy chaplet is actually, you can pray for the intention of a family member of their conversion. And my problem is just getting a consistency to want to pray it better and more often. And that's my main issue. Trying to work on, because what's amazing for my wife's situation is that she said she is open to me praying for her. I'm like,
Nice.
good, that's a start. I'm going to pray for you. And I didn't, I don't have to tell. I could tell her why. She probably already knows about the conversion, but so that's the open heart is really important as well. If the person is at least open to the praying for them, then that could be the start of their journey, I believe.
Yeah. Um, you know, without making it personal about your wife, but when it comes to Assemblies of God, that's what she's currently involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And you wrote that whole document comparing and contrasting. So you have a good knowledge, a certain basic understanding that I probably don't have, and maybe my audience would like to hear. Like, what are some of the overlaps in terms of common ground? What are some of the things that might be areas of gray areas? And what are some of the things where it's just like they're completely at odds with us?
All right. If it's all right, I'm gonna use my
Yeah,
notes
of course,
because
yeah.
I know quite a few of them, but I'd rather make sure.
Point by point, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you wrote it. I want to hear it. It's like that's a gold mine right there.
So I have an entire section. Thank you. I have an entire section of I call them blocks, meaning
Okay.
blocks that are hard to get over to accept and trust.
I see. I see. Stumbling blocks.
Yeah. So you want me to go over those?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. The first one, and it's one of the biggest ones, it seems. Maybe not, but it's pretty well. Is the Mary dogmas.
Ah, yeah.
Anything Blessed Virgin, like why do you pray to her? Okay, if it's not worship, then what is it? Why not just pray straight to Jesus? I understand that. Why would I pray for you then? You should just don't ask for me to. That my response is why would I pray for you?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
would you ask someone else or your pastor to pray for you? Go straight to Jesus only, and that's my response. And I'm like, and God's the God of living. If these are saints, and they are, and not just a saint, the Blessed Virgin, the Queen, the mother of all those that believe in Christ, closest to Jesus. Will we assume? Will we think that she could bring a prayer to Jesus? I'm not saying that it would have to be answered, because sometimes unanswered prayers are better. I had one recently, actually Monday. I had a prayer to Saint Joseph the day before, about, because my job, we can be on standby, but we're working from home, kind of. and I was wanting to be on standby Monday, and I didn't have that chance. I had to work. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm a truck driver. So I went into work. I had to pray 2 rosaries because of it. Would I have done that at home? Most likely not. I would have been working on stuff. I would have gotten. So I was like, well, I'm glad that prayer wasn't answered. I got to pray 2 rosaries because of that unanswered prayer.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just want to put that as a side note. The Blessed Virgin, Mary dogmas, saints as well, just saints in general. That kind of connected to Mary, like why ask the saint for help on this or that? Saint Anthony to help find something, which I like to have help because I struggle finding things with or without Saint Anthony because sometimes I take a bit. That's me working on my patience. So it's a good thing that I get help from Saint Anthony. The next one was purgatory.
Mm.
Because having 7, I'll say this with respect. When Martin Luther had 7 books removed, the Book of Maccabees does mention about praying for the dead, and there's other verses in the Bible. I can't remember at the moment. I think Jesus and St. Paul mentioned about by fire. I think about until Jesus says about until the last penny is paid, and that I believe the church says about purgatory. So, but anyways, so purgatory is a stumbling block. Authority. Authority is another tough one because that's the reason that's so important. Obviously, we already know. Important for Christians in general is that if someone disagrees on, or doesn't understand a Bible verse, you go to authority and they help you. That's why there's however many thousand Protestant churches. I mean, I don't agree with that. I'm gonna start my own church. Okay, and you go and now I have everything but that one teaching or so, and I got my Church of Allen or whatever, Allen's Christian Church, denomination. And then for them, that would help them. Obviously, with the Catholics, it's nice to have that authority because, to help with answering questions. But also, Jesus gave the authority to the apostles, all the way to the current, the bishops at the time, priests, all the way to today. And Jesus gave the divine promise that I will be with you to the end of the age. The gates of hell will not prevail. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyways, so that authority is going to stay all the way to the end of the age. This one isn't a huge one, but the 7 sacraments. They have kind of 2. Really, they only have 1, the baptism. If they baptize the proper way, I baptize you in the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, pouring water over the forehead, then they have that. They technically have matrimony, but it's not. It would be a sacrament. It would be a what does Dr. David Andrews say? I think a sacramental marriage, but it wouldn't be blessed by a priest or a bishop even. So they have marriage as well, but they don't have all the other. Confession. Some don't even believe about confession, other than like you confess your sins to someone and you're fine. They don't have to absolve, which they couldn't, but if they could, they don't have to do that even. So, which do you not want me to go over the sacraments? You already know them. So,
no, I don't need to go over
but the sacraments is the other stumbling block.
Well, I know some of them have some sort of remembrance of, it's not a Eucharist, obviously, but they do have some sort of Lord's Supper that they do, sort of symbolic Last Supper kind of thing that they do with wine. They don't even use wine and bread. They use like grape juice and crackers or whatever, I grew up with that in a Protestant denomination myself here.
I respect that, though. I mean, it's nice that someone will do that, though. It feels like it's like almost like a beginning of like, man, maybe there's something to the Catholics doing that. But go ahead.
It's like a gateway drug. It's like a gateway, like, oh, yeah. Interesting.
So, and that is interesting that they have that. I think that's kind of neat. That obviously the Eucharist would not be too much of a stumbling block once they understood who was truly present there. But so I did have the 7 sacraments, only because it is something that would be a stumbling block, especially the confession. That's like the main one, probably. Like, why do I have to tell a priest this? The priest shouldn't be able to forgive sins. Jesus said, though, and it's interesting, they have a different interpretation, obviously. Jesus said, whoever sins you forgive are forgiven. Whoever sins you retain are retained. And but it's interesting, though, because Jesus also said, I'm truly there at the confessional.
Yeah.
I think, did you say that? He said it to St. Faustina, I think.
Yeah, all the saints say, and the church teaches that
So,
the church teaches that the priest is another Christ, an alter Christus. So,
yeah,
and we as Christians are supposed to be Christ too. As St. Paul said, it's no longer I live, Christ who lives in me. So that's, to be a Christian is to be Christ. So when the Protestants say, well, why am I confessing to a man? It's like, well, because that man is Christ. That's why, right?
yeah,
And
neat.
the economy of salvation. Christ didn't need to take on, like the second person of the Trinity didn't need to take on flesh. He didn't need to suffer and die for us. He didn't need to build a church. He didn't need any. He could just forgive us all. We could be in heaven right now. But there's an economy of salvation. We're physical beings and we're spiritual beings, and we got to go through the motions according to His will. Like, if we didn't fall from grace, it would have been a different story, right? But we did fall in our first parents, Adam and Eve. So there's a whole economy of salvation that God in His infinite wisdom and mercy set up for us. And who am I to say, oh, well, God, you shouldn't have incarnated, you shouldn't have suffered, you shouldn't have died, you shouldn't have built a church, you shouldn't have made 7 sacraments, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. If I were God, I would have done it like this. Well, you're not God. You're not God. Okay, first of all, you're not God. And God is God, and He did it this way. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's it. What are you going to say? What are you going to
Yeah,
say? What are you going to say? I would have done it differently? Well,
yeah,
that's what Satan said. Satan said he would do it differently, right? So,
yep,
not to disparage the critics of God's economy of salvation, but it's a bold thing. It's a very bold thing to challenge the sovereignty of God and His economy of salvation. That's a very bold thing. If they only knew what they were doing, they would hopefully repent, But
for sure. Yeah, because obviously we all want to think that we could have done better, but if the least intelligent of an angel is like all, I think someone said like all of mankind's intelligence put together, not is still not even nearly
yeah,
close enough
for
to an angel.
sure, for
Then how much
sure.
more so the creator on what's the best plan? I'm not laughing at the, I don't mean to laugh like in a, it sounds like I'm laughing mean. I'm laughing at like in a like a amazement of the
Of
Lord, like
course,
how much more intelligence is God going to have
of
on the
course.
right way? So that priest saying, I absolve you of your sin, that might sound kind of crazy in general. Maybe it is a little bit, but of what they think. I don't think it is actually. I mean, I think it's kind of neat in a way because you kind of have that personal connection and that and whatnot. But but I mean, I don't want to go too deep into that. But anyways, like Jesus set it up like this. They should at least respect that. I'm sure once they understood that and if they finally believe, they're like, okay, why did I go against it so much? And another thing, I want to quote this real quick. And I said it one day, but I give all credit to the Holy Spirit. Anything that's great, it's not me. And I said, if Protestants only knew and understood what they're missing from the Catholic Church, they would swarm into the church like bees protect the queen. They would swarm into the church like that.
Absolutely.
The church would be overwhelmed of having to get everything set up for them.
Absolutely.
They'd have
That
to have,
confessional would be, there'd be lineups around the block for the confessional. Believe me. Believe
yeah,
me.
for sure. You want to get back to the blocks? I'm trying to see it. I don't have too much more left. So the next one is connected to the Blessed Mother, Rosary, because a lot of them think, not a lot, but quite a few will probably think, well, it seems like you're just straight focusing on the Blessed Virgin, and then you're forgetting about Jesus. Jesus is over.
And excuse me to interrupt, but and
Go ahead.
they always say about the repetitive prayer, how it says in the Bible, don't do the
That's right.
repetitive prayer, right?
About that, yeah, that's right. That too.
So how do you counter that?
Um, oh man, I haven't had this question in a while, but I used to have a quick answer. The repetitive prayer, So what Jesus was saying at that time was about how the pagans would want to repeat, Zeus help me with this, Zeus help. They repeat hoping and to no avail. He wasn't condemning actual repetitive prayer, because the Psalms there's a psalm that has repetitive. I can't remember which psalm, and that's one of my weaknesses is the Bible of which psalm and this that. But there's a psalm that His mercy endures forever or something like, and it says it over.
Yeah.
And Jesus would pray those. I can't remember if they prayed it every day, but probably so for Jesus. If not them, Jesus most definitely. So he wasn't condemning actual repetitive prayer, just the. And you can comment if I messed up or anything. He was condemning about how the pagans would say, Aphrodite, help me with this. Hoping, and then nothing happened, because Aphrodite's a fake god, not a real god at all.
Well, and there's another aspect that you didn't touch on, which in my intuition, it tells me that it's relevant. I don't know. We'll see what the church says, but intuitively, I believe that there's some sort of magic formulation. Like, if I do this thing and say this thing, then magically it'll work. It's sort of like a demonic mirror image of the sacraments, because the sacraments, there's matter and form. So with baptism, you have to have water, and you have to say, I baptize you in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So it seems like, oh, it's like a magic trick. You have the matter and the form, and if you don't get it right, it doesn't work. And that's true. It's true, because the sacraments in the economy of salvation, we have to have the proper matter, we have to have the proper form. But when it comes to prayer, it's just an elevation of our minds and our hearts to God, and there's no magical thing where we have to have it just right. And if we stumble or fumble or get distracted during our prayers, it's not perfect, but it's not a big deal, really. So when it comes to prayer, there were some pagans that had that sort of magical formula where it had to be just so, like our sacraments. It's sort of like a dark mirror of our sacraments. But with us, with the repetition in the rosary, what I would say is that it's, first of all, it's like my wife and I in real life, we tell each other many, 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 many times per day, I love you, or, you're cute, or, you're good, or whatever. And it's like, I could turn around to my wife and say, well, yeah, you already told me. You told me that yesterday. You don't need to tell me again today. I know you love me, or whatever. Yeah. I welcome it. I welcome it. Tell me again. Tell me again. Tell me again. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with our prayers. Like, the Blessed Virgin herself, through the Holy Spirit, prophesied that every generation is going to call her blessed, and that's what we do. We're calling her blessed, and just let's say it again. She's blessed. She's blessed. Like, you'd just love to say it, right? And so it's the same thing with my example of the romantic relationship. We do have a sort of romantic relationship with God. There's an intimacy we're supposed to have, and all these sorts of things. So that's all I wanted to say to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you said that, because and also, is it repetitive, or am I saying amen, stopping for a bit and try, which obviously not everyone can try. If that's one thing I try and do better when I'm driving a long distance trip,
right?
Is saying it slowly.
Yeah.
So when it said slowly, when it said
I don't do that, but I want to do that. I want to do that, but I just burn through it like blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I mean, there's a quality and quantity. So like, I could say I did my rosary today. I did it.
Yeah.
But the quality wasn't
bad if you go quicker.
Yeah, the quality wasn't that good. So, but ideally, you take the time and you pause and you think. And there's the meditation. I do the meditations, but I could take more time. I could pay more respect to our Lord and Our Lady by setting it up better, taking the time better. So I'm just letting you know that I'm not good at it. I could be better, and it's not that hard to be better. You just take the time. But often we're busy and we're just,
definitely.
We just.
And that's the main thing. So if one has time, and I have a 5-hour trip almost to my spot and back, so I have plenty of time to. So I should have had a lot more rosary. That's my struggle. I let myself, get sidetracked with something else not as important, and I'm working on that. So yeah, when it's done slowly, or even if it's done not as slowly, if it's done, you say amen, and there's a little bit of a space. That's not as repetitive as repetitive would be like you keep going. Like I'll just use an example. Well, I don't want to say an actual prayer. Maybe like I got Pepsi over there. Help me, Pepsi. Help me, Pepsi. You know, saying it real
Yeah,
quick like a rapper.
yeah, yeah.
That sounds more repetitive. But if you say it real slow, that whole prayer, yes, it's kind of in a sense repetitive, but when it's done with that reverence, like you said, focusing on, and that's really good. That's one thing I struggle on because I keep thinking of random stuff sometimes. I forget to focus on the oh man, I can't think of what it's called now. It's
The mysteries.
on mystery. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
think of it. So when it's done like that, that's all focusing straight towards Jesus, and yes, Mary with the prayer. Like when we focus on Mary, though, we glorify Jesus as well.
Of course.
I think I can't remember what this quote's from, but I've heard it. Mary, I don't like to say Mary like that. The Blessed Virgin Mary. I don't know how to say it like that. I'm sorry. The Blessed Virgin is the perfect mirror of God. Is what I can't remember if a saint said that or if that was the Blessed Anne Emmerich.
Okay.
Have you heard about her?
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's a little bit controversial, so I've stayed away. I don't know if she wrote something that was condemned once or what. I don't know the story with her.
Oh, I understand. I know what you're talking about. So there were some problems with the
Ah,
but also the one of her writers messed up or something,
oh,
and so yeah, I can't remember if what the church has said about that mess up,
okay.
but she apparently saw visions of like the life of Jesus, Adam and Eve even. And
Ah,
yeah, it's
ah,
kind of pretty neat. And obviously we don't have to believe it. The way that I've read quite a bit of the Old Testament ones, and it's quite interesting. I feel like there might be a chance it might be true. You have to. There's a website that has all of it. You'll have to check it out sometime. If you type her name in, and then I think you type her name in and then type maybe put visions, or you might put her books. If you type her name in, you can find it. I can't remember what I typed to find it though. I apologize. I don't want to mess up the video, so I don't want to try and find it real quick or anything. But I can always leave a comment once I figure out how I found it, and that'll make it easier. Or heck, I could just copy and paste the link.
you can send me the link right now. I'm just looking at a couple of things to try to find out what her status is, but I think I think she may be a venerable of some sort or something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I haven't looked into it, but from what I'm reading right now, it sounds fascinating, and I'm just
Yeah.
cautious. I'm just cautious about anything that isn't like approved, just because why bother when there's so much good stuff that's approved? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the reason I got into it is because it seemed it almost like there was more. It felt like there was more detail to the
Yeah.
stories, and that was kind of cool. And I was like, Lord, whether this is true or not, it's not going to change my faith in you. It's not going to change my faith in the church and the teachings. I just got into it. Like I was like, even if this is maybe wrong or inaccurate a little bit, it's kind of neat to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how it talks about how the Blessed Virgin was as a kid is kind of neat
Ah.
and beautiful. Apparently, she had the same gift that Pio had of being able to see the guardian angels
Oh.
or something like that. Yeah, like
Probably.
you know, and obviously if that makes sense because it's the Blessed Virgin. You know, the Padre Pio was holy. How much more so her? Obviously, way more. And so that kind of gift makes sense. But she was so humble; she didn't like say, "Oh, I can see this and this and this." Like she saw and was like, "That's fine, okay." That's guardian angels. She didn't like it's kind of neat. She acted kind of childlike, so to speak, most of her life, like how Jesus said to be like little children, and she acted similar or pretty much childlike by the same being highly intelligent and holy, but she being childlike most of her life. It's kind of interesting,
Yeah.
kind of neat. Is what Blessed Anne said. And Rich, I can't remember. Or maybe
And
it's
Catherine Emmerich. Yeah. I'm gonna I'm gonna buy her collected works on Amazon for my Kindle. It's like cheap. It's like $2, $3 for a bunch of
Yeah.
books, a bunch of her books. So I'm definitely gonna look into that.
Yeah.
Let's keep going through your
Sorry.
list. Let's keep going through your list because I've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
And hey,
So,
listen, you're going to come back another time. We'll just keep talking about our faith. Like you have an open invitation. You can come every week and talk to me if you want. Well, right now my calendar's full, but
yeah. That's right. Yeah.
basically you have an open invitation. My calendar's full because I joined Podmatch, which hooks up guests with hosts on the podcasting community. So
Oh,
like
cool.
I've got a whole bunch of people lined up, like more than I can handle. But
Yeah.
I'll squeeze you in somewhere, and you can always come back, and we'll chat again. But for now, just keep going with your fascinating work there.
All right. Thank you. So the next one is breaking the seal confession is what I've
Ooh,
is a
ooh,
issue a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And I mean, I think this one's not, too hard to explain, especially if you say the fact that you say that if you let them know that, okay, a priest, whether you believe this or not, my fellow Christian, non-Catholic Christian, a priest is automatically excommunicated out of the church. And what we believe in the church is that means out of the church on earth and heaven by revealing a confession. Like whether the church doesn't have to say it. I think it's in maybe canon law or something that in the church. So, or that if the priest reveals someone's confession, automatically outside of the church. So if they died from, or someone went up killed them right after doing that, and I'm not gonna judge them, but
Doesn't
we'll
look
just say
good. Doesn't look good.
not good, not good. So that usually. Oh man, I unplugged my charger. Sorry.
It's
I should have enough. Okay, I have enough. Sorry. I'll just do this. That'd be a little easier. So that usually is enough to kind of, okay, I understand that, but what if this and that? I'm like, again, even if there's something that you would think they should report, they don't want to go to hell, and maybe you don't mind if they go to hell because they're trying to help with something, maybe. But if they don't want to go to hell, they're not going to report it, anything. But how often is that happening? We don't really know. Obviously the priest is going to pray for someone that might be doing some bad stuff, and they're going to pray that they stop and they convert. So, but so I do have that kind of in my description, is about like, I'm trying to think. Well, maybe I didn't. Maybe I forgot to put that in it. Well, I got to update this. Okay, and the next one, I put that as mainly. I put church history. I said it may not be a block, but it could be a little bit. But I did put church history because it seems like this one pastor, her pastor, he'll mention Augustine.
Oh,
He
one of
won't
my
say saint.
favorites.
Yeah.
He won't say
Awesome.
saint though, yeah.
And he'll say Augustine, he won't say saint. I'm like, so there's certain things that's okay. I guess from the pre-Martin Luther, before the Protestant Reformation. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he mentioned what St. Augustine said one time. I'm like,
That's our guy.
I was like,
that's our guy. That's our guy.
yeah, really awesome. And I'm like, okay. But other than that, maybe quoting certain saints or church hierarchy, I guess you could say, it seems like there will be a disagreement of like the church being the one that was in the early church and then still the continuation to this day. Obviously, there has to be a disagreement, or else they would be, like I said, swarming in. They'd be like, yeah, church history, that was the, and Jesus said, divine promise, the gates of hell not prevail. So even with the corruption, there's even Judas, he was corrupted. Jesus chose him. And Peter denied him 3 times. Okay, maybe that corruption is bad, yes, but that should be a reason to not be part of it. That was not a reason to leave, like Martin Luther did, and so many others at the time. Well, the other leaders. And so that's that's one thing I would hope when I'll say Protestants, but is that all right?
Yeah,
If
of course, of
okay.
course.
I would hope that would be at least something, if any are ever listen or hear this, to consider. Like, okay, Jesus said he gave a promise. You know, maybe I should consider the church and just try and get over all the stumps that I have. Okay, so back to the list. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
I just wanted to say you're getting compliments in the live chat here. My friend Haley, she says you're very attractive. You're a very attractive blonde. That's what she's saying. But I'm just writing her a note here saying that he's taken. So I also wanted to say, I wanted to give a shout out to Haley. How you doing? But I also wanted to say, the Eucharist, John 6, when everyone was scandalized by, you have to eat my flesh and drink my blood. And he said, are you going to leave too? And his apostles said, well, where can we go? Like, you have the truth. Like, this is it. So even if it's like crazy, it's like, oh, what are you telling us? Even if it seems difficult, it's a difficult saying. It's a hard saying. Where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna go? So that's the thing. That's the thing. What you were saying about the church. It's like, okay, it's not what you thought. It's not the way you would do it, the economy of salvation. But where are we gonna go, if not to the church that Christ built and to Christ? Like, I mean, yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to understand, and yeah, it seems a bit strange that God became man. It seems strange that he suffered. It seems strange that he died. It seems strange that we have to drink his blood and eat his flesh. That all seems strange.
Yeah.
But my ways are not your ways, says the Lord, right? My thoughts are not your thoughts. It's like we should expect the unexpected with God, right?
Sure. Yep. Like Abraham and Sarah having
Excuse me.
80 something.
Excuse me. I just got it. I got an update from my friend here. I got to take action right away because I have the wrong thumbnail for you. I've got the lady from last night. I got Maria. So here, I'm going to change that right now. Bam.
No,
okay, check that now. So that should be good. Fixed it. Sorry for that. That was a little bit of a technical glitch. I had you as a transgender, so.
Oh man.
I'm kidding.
No, you're good. Yeah.
So let's keep going here.
This one I realize is kind of connected to church history, but oral and sacred tradition. I guess I meant to put
oral and written.
Written maybe, but I guess I put both of them. Like, I guess those are the main one. The written part is not an issue because they love, the Bible. They have a great love for. So I probably should have put it more like that. I put oral and sacred tradition, so I may have not been thinking as much. But so, let's see here. Sorry.
No problem.
So yeah, with that of course being an issue because they go by Bible alone a lot of times. The Bible. Now, I'm not trying to say that in a bad way, but they go, they I love that respect for the Bible. I think myself and some other Catholics could definitely learn from that, which is why I started reading the Bible about a year and a half, almost 2 years back. I'm a slow reader and I get so sidetracked I forget to get back to it. Now I'm kind of back to reading it more. I'm trying to read the whole Bible.
I got a life hack for you, okay?
Yeah.
You got yourself a pair of headphones, or you got a stereo in your truck. Listen to the Bible, audio Bible. It's amazing. That's the natural way. That's the old school way. That's the biblical way, because, I mean, most people couldn't afford a Bible until modern times, a printing press. Most people didn't have that luxury. And it's a very gentle and natural way to absorb the ideas in Scripture. And it might help you if you're not a good reader, you don't enjoy reading, and you're not fast, or you're slow with comprehension or whatever. With the oral, you just soak it up, and it's just a lot more natural. So you should try that.
So the reason I haven't done that, unfortunately, is I like to read those side notes. So I might do that though. I might do that and just come back to the side notes.
Yeah.
That's my only problem is that I like to read those. Yeah. That's the only reason why I was like, man, I wish I wouldn't have gotten too into those. I'd rather read the Bible fully and then come back to those.
Yeah, you could do both.
Do what?
You could do both. Do the audio just for the Bible, and then the notes is like you're adding icing onto the cake. You're making it just that little bit extra knowledge and depth after.
I'm gonna have to consider that, because that would be better so I can get it read finally. Okay, so there's only 2 left.
Hope you don't lose your faith when you read the Bible, though. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, you're good. Yeah, a lot of it, some of it reading it, I'm like, there's a lot of Catholic in this.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When reading it, and it's not saying that there's not other churches not in it. I'm not saying, but like reading it, I'm like, man, like I see the connections to the Catholic faith. I'm like, man, if I wish someone could read my mind right now. Like I'm getting all these connections. Like the Protestant brothers and sisters, they love the Bible. If they could see those connections, they might have a thought like, I might consider the church. That's also, the church does respect the Bible if there's these connections. Okay, so that's kind of neat reading it. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of connections, a lot more than what I realized. So the next one is the Persona Christi. The priest, bishops being in the person of Christ, deacons, I think, as well, being in the person of Christ. And what I mentioned on that, let's see here. Oh, I mentioned about the Jesus in the vision to pass. I am there in a confessional, only hidden by the priest. I mentioned about that, what Jesus said to St. Faustina. And I think I mentioned about what God the Father said to St. Catherine of Siena about respect the priest as if Jesus himself is right there, even the corrupted ones, he said, and pray for them. So that's the stumbling block. The last one is not necessarily a stumbling block, but it could be an issue. And I wrote it as possible embarrassment. And that would be. Those that join it, it's going to be not just embarrassing, but also tough, because a lot of loved ones would be like, you're joining the Catholic Church? If the news broke out, because I was going for the entire Assembly of God. I wasn't going for just one. I was going for as many as I could from that church. So if the news broke out, it would be embarrassing, possibly for them. Hopefully not, but in a sense, it could be almost embarrassing. Like, oh, they're going to join with the Catholic Church, and the church has this teaching and that teaching, or whatever.
It's the whore of Babylon. It's the whore of Babylon.
Oh yeah, that's annoying. About they say some try and say that. So that's the last one. I put other. What I said is other. If I miss any, please mention. I put a little line. I try to be somewhat organized, and that's the main blocks. So that's probably a good stopping point before I try and continue on with what I wrote down, like common grounds and whatnot. What's neat about this Assembly of God is that a lot of what their issues are is going to be quite a few of other Protestants' issues.
Absolutely. You're going to come back and we're going to dive deeper into some of the other stuff in your Becoming One document, which is so beautiful. Just the idea of it, church unity is such a near and dear to my heart and every Christian's heart, I would hope.
Yeah.
But before we wrap it up here, because I don't have a lot of time left, I do want to go back and get your thoughts on Kent Hovind and what he said during my interview of him. And between now and your next interview with me, you'll go and you'll listen to my reaction video that I did where I talk about a lot of the points. Okay.
Because I didn't notice that till today. Actually, I was like, oh man, there's already reaction, and I should have even really commented almost.
And I did a second reaction video to Kent Hovind recently. Someone said, hey, there's this video. He's critiquing the Catholic Church. Can you do a response video to it? So there are actually 2 videos that you can look at if you're interested, if you have the time. But
Yeah,
for now, I'm just curious, like when you listen to him and maybe some of the stuff I was saying, maybe I didn't say enough or maybe I made a mistake. What were some of the notes you took just mentally?
It was I think it was oh man, what did he say? Something about like, oh, there's Protestants and there's Catholics. He said he wasn't either one of them.
Right.
I wanted to say on that right there that even if you protest other Protestants, if the fact that you protest the Catholic Church is what would make you a Protestant. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Protestants, any that listen, but that's why the term is that I can't remember. I thought the church may have said it. Protesting the true church is what they were saying at that time. If you're doing this, you're protesting the faith, the true faith, the faith that's been passed on, passed down to us a bit. And so if he does protest other Protestants, okay, that's, I understand that, I respect that. He disagrees with some. But the fact that he's protesting the Catholic Church makes him still Protestant. And then he said something about Bible believers at the time. And that right there, where did the Bible come from? Is what I want to ask him. They didn't happen to come from a council in the fourth century, Nicaea, I think. He could probably remember better than me. I thought it was the Council of Nicaea. I was like, did the Bible happen to come from a council that was held by the Catholic Church? That was whenever both East and West were together, which hopefully some unity happens there as well. So, and if it did, then how do you know that you can trust that this Catholic book that was put together is going to be correct? Because you're already against the Catholic Church. So that would mean you should be against the Bible itself. So you'd have to just go on just basic everything in your brain. Okay, I believe in a God. I don't know what's true yet because I realize the church brought us the Bible. And that Martin Luther, a priest that was in the church and then left, took out 7 books as well as some other verses. And I think tried to take out Revelation or something and maybe some other books. So, I mean, that's the first thing I'd like to hear him answer. I respect the man. And it was upsetting of him kind of going after the faith like that. But I was like, man, I wish I could talk to him because there's stuff that he does that I think is kind of honorable. And whether one believes it or not, he's kind of going after the old Earth, the 4.6 billion, and he kind of goes after it and brings some pretty good logical questions and answers or responses. I'm like, man, so maybe the Earth is. So he kind of helped me out with that. I'm kind of in the middle. It doesn't affect my faith either way. That's true, but I think that's kind of neat. And so when I looked up, I was like, all right, I want to see what he thinks about the faith. And then it got to that. I'm like, okay, I can't remember all the stuff I want to respond to, but that was one of them. And I didn't get a chance to watch it a second time. A second time really to kind of go over it. I was planning to. I forgot to.
Well, we're out of time now, so we'll talk about it next time. But are you anywhere near to his residence and his Dino Farm village there in Alabama? Are you anywhere close
Oh,
geographically?
no.
No? Okay.
I can tell you where I'm at roughly if you want me to. I mean,
Well,
I
I
don't
thought
mind.
you could pop by and like chat with him. But even if you reach out to him, I'll send you his email. He's very friendly. He's very open. You could actually probably start up a conversation by email, or you could even hop on a video chat with him. He's very friendly, and he's a gruff guy, set in his ways with his opinions. He's a hard-headed, stubborn man. Okay, but I like that. I like that character that he has. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know or not, but I'm also a young Earth creationist, for lack of a better term. Like that's the traditional position of the church.
Okay.
If you read the Roman Martyrology, every Christmas they used to read the chronology, how old the universe is, and with that Christ created the universe and he came into time and space at a certain part of history. But yeah, it's a well-established tradition of the church.
Okay.
It's something you'll have to look into, especially if you're into the whole traditional uh, angle of the liturgy. You might want to look into the Roman Martyrology, and it was phased out, but it's still the tradition of the church, and it's just a fact that we are mired in worldliness. Even the members of the church, and even in the hierarchy, people get sucked into trusting the science. I trust the science on this and the experts, and oh, who am I to judge natural science? Well, as Christians, we have God, we have theology, we have philosophy, and natural science is very low on that
Yeah.
hierarchy in that. But people, myself included, we can't be we're not God, so we don't have the capacity to understand everything. But you've got gifts, I've got gifts, and I was given the gift of understanding that this is the traditional teaching of the church, and
Yeah.
I don't hold it against someone if they believe that the Earth is 14 billion, or the universe is 14 billion years old. I don't hold it against them. I don't think it's that important, actually. But it's just nice to have that extra comfort of knowing that you don't buy into the atheist story, because evolution is an atheist story. It's an atheist creation myth, you
I
see.
don't like evolution. Yeah.
No, it's just like it's just a stupid story. That's all it is, right? And
Yep.
I studied natural science, so I'm able to understand the difference between evidence and the interpretation of evidence. It's just like the Bible. We have the Bible, but we've obviously got people disagreeing about the interpretation of it. It's the same thing with a
Yeah.
fossil. You could show me a fossil. I'm not going to deny that it's in my face. I could see it, I could touch it, I can measure certain things about it.
Yeah.
But we have to interpret that. We have to interpret that. So it's very complicated in the natural sciences, and there's a lot of prejudice in the natural sciences. There just is. So people have preconceptions and these sorts of things. But we'll talk about evolution. We'll talk about creationism next time when you come on. We're going to wrap it up here. I want to give a shout out to my non-Catholic Christian friend who joined us here, Christopher Rice. He's a dear friend, and he's been on my podcast many times. He's going to be back on again.
Awesome.
And so any last thoughts for today? You will come back, I hope. But for today, was there any little bow you wanted to put on top of today's talk, just to wrap things up finally before we say goodbye? As a sort of summary closing statement, or another point that you forgot to add in that you wanted to talk about today?
That's a tough one to try and come up with so quick. I think and this is for Catholics as well, try and just do some basic research. I say basic like it's so easy to do, but no, like just do some research, and have an open heart about the early church. And if you start with the early church, those that learned right from the apostles, that's usually the beginning journey sometimes of, Protestants joining the church, Catholics getting firmer into the faith. Look to the early church fathers. There's some books on it, and I'm not going to try and mention them because I can't think of the name now, but look to the early church fathers and have an open heart. Humility, 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 open heart. Let's assume that maybe I'm wrong. If you ask that, and myself included, maybe I'm wrong on some of the stuff I said. I may have mentioned the wrong saint earlier. If we have an open heart of it, maybe I'm wrong. And then just look, and have an open heart to that. You might just, those that are non-Catholic might just find themselves in the church much sooner than what they think if they have that open heart and do that little bit of research sometimes. And it hurts to be wrong, but that I had to be wrong to accept the church teachings as well. Like I could maybe think, well, maybe the church should have done this. Well, okay, that's for me to say I'm wrong on that part. The church is correct. So I have to accept that I'm wrong on certain things as well. It's not just Protestants, it's Catholics have to accept being wrong a lot of times as well. If not more times, sometimes what we wish to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that you mentioned all that, especially the early church fathers. There's a 3-volume set you can get by Jurgens. If anyone's interested in sort of getting a little overview of what some of the early church fathers taught, it's a good introduction because it's got a lot of early church fathers documents. It's even got the that early document that mentions abortion and everything else. It's
Wow.
it's a very famous early church writing. We don't know who wrote it exactly. What's it called?
I can't
remember, but it's a very famous little book, and it describes sort of like our faith. It's an overview of our faith in the Mass, and it's very, 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 very Catholic, to put it mildly. Yeah. So the early church fathers, that's an excellent thing to look into. But there's so much in our faith, there's so much richness, so much wealth that we have that we just barely scratch the surface, when we sit down to talk Catholic to Catholic.
Right.
And there's so much in Christianity that we can learn from our separated brothers and sisters in the faith. There's so much that they can bring. And I'd like you to do... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll say, they can too, that their passion, if they brought that, I mean, they could change, they could help the church quite a bit. And that's one thing that I'm like, man, if they can bring that into the church, that there could be some good, I don't want to say change, but some good, I guess you say positivity type. a light being brought in that the church kind of needs, I think, actually, that the Protestants can bring in, actually.
Yeah, fire, the heat,
Yeah.
the light, everything.
Yeah.
What was I just going to tell you? What was I going to tell you about that? I'm not grasping it here. Oh, the Didache, that's the name of it. Thank you, Christopher Rice. The Didache, that's the name of that
Okay.
little writing.
Remember that.
You'll have to look into that. But do me
Yeah,
a favor.
Go ahead.
Do me a favor, Alan, and if it's possible, invite your wife to come on and talk to me and just share her faith journey and what she loves about Christ and the Bible and everything else like that. It could be
Yeah.
interesting to get her perspective and just to hear her side of things, like how the two of you met and those sorts of things. Hear her perspective might be interesting. So
Yeah.
just extend the invitation and tell her that there's no antagonism and I'm not going to be bashing her over the head with Catholic dogmas or anything like that. It's just a friendly chat. I've interviewed hundreds of people and a lot of them were Protestant. And I was raised Protestant, so I don't have any antagonism.
Yeah.
Let her know that, okay?
Okay, I will.
So God bless you, and I don't know if you know or
You too.
not, but I enroll all my guests in a perpetual mass. So you and your wife and your parents, your siblings, you're all getting the graces of this perpetual mass every day till the end of time. So if God forbid you end up in purgatory, you're going to be getting those graces that'll help you even in purgatory.
I need it. I need all. We'll take all of that. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So please pray for me. Pray for my family. I'm the only convert. I converted in 2009. I'm the only one that's Catholic, and as you know, there's a lot of misunderstandings about what the church is, and so it's not easy. So I'd appreciate your prayers. Okay?
Yeah, for sure. Pray. I'm gonna write that because I have this little notebook.
My name is David Ross. So pray for David Ross and family, and of course you'll be praying for all of us, my wife and everybody. So that's just David Ross and family.
For sure.
And I'd appreciate your prayers. I think your prayers are powerful.
For sure. Even a struggler like myself, I because not saying I am the power. The Lord's power is what's, and you already knew that. There's the greatness of the power there. Divine Mercy Chaplain, I want to also as well do. I like to try and include those with any prayer I plan to have. So, all right, I will for sure.
Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll talk again soon, okay, my brother?
For sure.
God bless.
All right, God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.